Political correspondent Jan Crawford is in Columbus, Ohio, with the story that you will see only on CBS this morning. Jan, good morning.
Well, good morning. Jan Santorum is very much her husband's partner and equal. She's a lawyer and a nurse, and she told me how they talk about policy and strategy, and she tells him when he slips up. But she is really say behind the scenes. She rarely talks to the media. This was her first network television interview, and in our wide-ranging conversation, she was warm, genuine, and she talked openly about their life, their marriage, and the challenges they've endured.
When he walks through the door, he is not a senator. He's not a guy running for president. He's a husband and a father, and he immediately shifts gears. He's in the kitchen making a great meal.
What's his specialty?
Oh my goodness, chicken marsala, pasta arrabbiata, pancakes with the kids.
But these days, Rick Santorum is at home on the campaign trail.
A month ago, they didn't know who we are, but they do now.
As a front runner for the Republican nomination for president.
Did you ever think I could be First Lady?
No, and I still don't even go there. I just take one day at a time and work hard and pray hard, and we'll see where this is going.
They've come a long way since they met by chance 24 years ago in Pittsburgh, when then Karen Garver was offered a job at the firm where Santorum worked. He was with a group of lawyers who took her to a recruiting dinner.
It was honestly a love at first sight kind of thing.
Really?
Oh, absolutely.
What was it?
He was so funny. He was just very kind and friendly. And I went home that night and wrote in my diary, I met the guy I'm going to marry.
Did you take the job offer?
Yes, I did. I think it was because of him.
They married in 1990, the year Rick Santorum was first elected to Congress. Less than 2 years later, Elizabeth, the first of their 8 children, was born.
I knew once I had kids, I wanted to be a mom at home.
The Santorums are devout Catholics. Rick Santorum's strongly conservative views on social issues, he's anti-abortion and is morally opposed to birth control, have led critics to question his views on women.
Number one, he's been surrounded by strong women his whole life. He continues to be surrounded by strong women in his daily life. And some of the best staffers he has ever had, from press secretary to scheduler and you know, the issues people have all been women. He completely supports well-educated career women. If I wanted to work full-time as a lawyer, he would have been 100% behind me.
100%.
100%.
Even with the
Absolutely.
children.
If I told him tomorrow, Rick, you know what, I want to go out and work full-time, he would have been 100% behind me.
Jan Santorum's frustrations with the media are clear and in many ways understandable. They've been mocked by some for how they grieve the loss of their infant son, Gabriel, 16 years ago. Born prematurely, he died shortly after he was born.
We brought Gabriel home from the hospital to have a funeral mass and to bury him. And so they twist it and they make it sound like it was some crazy thing. We brought him home from the hospital to introduce him to our kids and place him. It was for the funeral mass and for the burial. And what is so sad to me, Jan, is that no one can tell me how to grieve. And I'm not going to tell anyone else how to grieve.
Even Jan Santorum's life nearly 30 years ago has been under a microscope. In nearly every story written about her, it's mentioned she lived with a doctor 40 years her senior, who as part of his practice performed abortions.
I went through a phase. It was a phase when I was young and made some stupid decisions, and I did some stupid things. And I did go through a phase of life where I wasn't living the way I should have been. And for anyone out there who's listening, who's in the same phase, you know, there is healing, there is change.
Santorum said that time made her realize what was important to her.
I just feel very strongly about faith and family, and I also feel very strongly about life, the life issue. And now that we have a special needs little girl, I feel especially stronger about, you know, the dignity and value of every person from the moment of conception until death.
Their daughter Bella was born with a rare genetic disorder. Along with the death of her son, Jan Santorum said learning Bella's diagnosis was the most difficult time in her life.
It was always one of us was at the hospital, one of us was home with the kids, and then we would switch. And I he was amazing, bringing me coffee, bringing me breakfast, you know, helping with the kids and helping out at home.
The demands of their family life and children was one reason Karen Santorum initially didn't want her husband to run for president. Another was the loss of privacy.
I wouldn't even talk about it for a while. And so eventually Rick said, I'm just going to ask you to just pray about it. And so I started to pray about it. It took us about a year to make the decision. We talked a lot about it. We prayed a lot about it. And in the end, despite my resistance, I honestly believe that this is the path God wants us on.
Now, Karen Santorum told me she believes her husband also brings one quality the other candidates lack, and that's courage, that he will fight for what he believes in as he fought for their family. And, you know, voters tell us that's one thing they like about Santorum. He means what he says, and he's real. And in that sense, he and his wife are very much alike.
So, Jan, obviously the campaign is putting her out there now to talk a little bit more, but how involved is she on a day-to-day basis on the campaign trail?
Well, we don't see her nearly as much as we do the other candidates' wives, like Mitt Romney's wife, Ann, for example. She's almost at every rally, speaking at every rally. Karen Santorum has stayed behind the scenes, and we talked about that in our interview. She says they talk on the phone. She tells him when she thinks he maybe goes too far. The other day, for example, when he called President Obama a snob, she had something to say about that. So she is behind the scenes, but we have been seeing her lately at some of these rallies. She says, though, obviously the demands of her life, her children, that makes them very different than the other candidates whose children are grown, or in Newt Gingrich and his wife's case do not have children.
Jan, thank you.